Hey everyone, welcome to this uncut, unfiltered, new installment of the Scooby-Doo 50th anniversary discussion / blog. And in this installment, I want to talk about a show that was aired during the original run of Scooby-Doo, but was not initially part of Scooby-Doo, although it played a part. And that show was LAFF-A-LYMPICS. LAFF-A-LYMPICS originally was actually, believe it or not, a 2-hour animated series on ABC Saturday mornings in the late 70s and early 80s. The way it was structured, from what I read, went like this. You would have the first part of what today would be seen as a whole LAFF-A-LYMPICS episode. You'd have the first half of that to begin the 2-hour block, and then you would have the second half at the end of the 2-hour block. So in between, you would have an episode of Scooby-Doo, you'd have an episode of Blue Falcon and Dynamite, and you would have an episode of Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. And the reason it was structured this way was to give off the illusion, I guess, that the participants, the characters, were traveling to the next destination. So while they were doing it and while you were waiting, here's some other stories to keep you entertained. And it actually worked out well because all three series combined without commercials for a total of basically 66 minutes. And then you add in the 11 minutes at the beginning of the series, or the beginning of the 2-hour block. That's about 77. Sorry about that, guys, but like I was saying, together, when you combine the 66 minutes of those three shows together in the middle with the 11 minutes of the first half of LAFF-A-LYMPICS and the 11 minutes of the other, you initially had 88 minutes. But then when you add in commercials, you had about 2 hours. So initially and originally, the way it was structured was, like I said, the first half of LAFF-A-LYMPICS would start off the block, the second half would end it. And like I said, it worked out kind of perfectly because it gave off that illusion, if you're a kid, that these characters were traveling across the globe to get to the next destination. So let's say the first half of the broadcast has them in Canada, but the second half has them in Tokyo. There you go. Now, like any sporting themed inspired show at that time, LAFF-A-LYMPICS was inspired by a couple of things. One, it was inspired by, of course, the Olympics because of some of the events they would showcase, or parody of some of the events. And the other thing it was inspired by was a show that they briefly brought back recently called Battle of the Network Stars, where you would have different stars, celebrities, that were in different shows aired on different networks battling out in athletic competition. And seeing that, Hanna-Barbera decided they wanted to have a piece of that pie and decided to go and do something very similar with their own cast of characters. But the way they did it and the way they structured it was to have two teams representing two different eras of Hanna-Barbera at that time, while the other team comprised of a makeshift of antagonists like villains. Some that were different reincarnations of established characters we had seen before, and some that were created because of legal issues at that time. So the teams you had were the Yogi Yahooies that represented the Hanna-Barbera era of the anthropomorphic characters from the late 50s throughout the 60s into the early 70s. And then you had the Scooby-Doobies that represented the late 60s into the late 70s, or up to that time when LAFF-A-LYMPICS came out. And then you had the Really Rottens, like I said, were comprised of a mixture of villains that were reincarnations of already established Hanna-Barbera antagonists like the Dalton brothers and makeshift characters that were made up or created because of legal issues like the Dread Baron. But here's what's funny about LAFF-A-LYMPICS. A little bit of, well, not funny, but here's a little bit of trivia, I should say, about LAFF-A-LYMPICS. Some of you may not know. Initially, when the concept was pitched, I'm not sure about the Yogi Yahooies, but I know that the Scooby-Doobies went through a huge lineup change when it came to the characters, or the characters on that team. Originally, instead of the Teen Angels and Captain Caveman, you had Josie and the Pussycats. Well, initially you had Pussycat members Alexandria, Alexander, and you had Melody. You had those characters, along with the cat Sebastian. Along with them, you not only had the genie character known as Babu, who was known as a genie in training, who was on the team from the get-go, but you also had Genie from the Hanna-Barbera animated teen take, or teenager take, as they would put it, where the characters were basically teenagers, even Genie. You had Genie herself. And Genie, long story short, like I said, was Hanna-Barbera's animated take or adaptation on the I Dream of Genie character. And Genie, as I'm just going to say it right now, was originally, like Melody, Alexandria, Alexander, and Sebastian, was originally supposed to be part of the Scooby-Doobies team, but unfortunately, I should say, due to legal action from Archie Comics and Sony, Columbia TriStar, I should say, Hanna-Barbera couldn't use that version of the Scooby-Doobies. So they ended up switching up the lineup and instead incorporated Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels and I'm trying to think who else they incorporated. I think that's about it. I think that's about it. I'll have to think of somebody else. But initially, the original lineup comprised of 3 members of Josie and the Pussycats and Genie from the Hanna-Barbera take on Genie. But unfortunately, like I said, due to legal issues, they couldn't do it. Nowadays, maybe they could, because what studios aren't making deals with each other to swap characters out and have them cross over with each other just to make a buck? Now, LAFF-A-LYMPICS lasted, I believe, for about a season, perhaps 2, on ABC. Now, was it a ratings hit? I can't really say. But apparently it was popular enough to where after the original run of the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo, the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo, after that initial run, and due to some behind-the-scenes controversy, LAFF-A-LYMPICS was one of the shows that was chosen to replace the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo on ABC. So LAFF-A-LYMPICS ended up getting a second a second chance in the mid-'80s, but it was done in the style we all now know. Basically, where the first and second half of the episode were put together instead of being separated by, let's say, some other programming. Now, was LAFF-A-LYMPICS a fun show to watch? Absolutely. It was great to see all these characters come together and compete against each other. Heck, even help each other out. I mean, there's one episode where Taffy of the Teen Angels, works with Cindy Bear to try to capture a robot duplicate of Muttley, who's a parody or an answer to Mumbly, because at the time they didn't have the rights to Dick Dastardly and Mumbly, so they came up with Muttley, and the contest was called, was about catching your man. So they went after this robot duplicate, and basically when it looked like Cindy and Taffy had lost, they noticed another Muttley hiding in the bushes, and they pretty much got clued in, like could it be? And they went right after it. They teamed together and worked together, and that was the fun part about it. And LAFF-A-LYMPICS was so good, was so popular at the time in the 70s and even the 80s, that it had a comic book series published by Archie Comics, I believe, and Marvel Comics. In fact, recently, in the past 20-something years, they had a revival in comic book form. Not initially LAFF-A-LYMPICS, but somewhat in the same veins as LAFF-A-LYMPICS. So it was nice to see this series somewhat make a comeback. Now, is this going to be everybody's cup of tea? Maybe not. But it was great to see. Sorry about that. But like I said, it was great to see something like this be showcased. Even if we rewatched it in reruns or recorded it onto VHS, or in my case, recorded it onto VHS and then had a friend convert it to DVD, or even buy the DVDs officially, or even buy some of the VHSs officially, or even when it originally came on back in the late 70s and early 80s, it was nice. It was something refreshing, and it was something different, because you never thought you would see so many characters from different genres of Hanna-Barbera and animation or animation television come together under one roof. And on top of that, you had guest stars like you had Fred and Barney from the Flintstones, you had Jabberjaw, and many others. So, like I said, to see something like this back then and even now is really, truly something special, because it shows you that there was a time in animation, even if they were under the same studio, that you got to see all in one place all your favorite characters, even if they were competing with each other to see who was the best at certain events. Now, is there a chance something like LAFF-A-LYMPICS could be revived for today's generation? Absolutely, no doubt. It could definitely be revived. And like I said, nowadays you have studios that are willing to work together to make things like this become a reality. So who knows? Maybe we'll finally get LAFF-A-LYMPICS the way it was originally meant to be. Maybe we'll have, Josie and the Pussycats, or at least the original, or at least three members of the group that was originally supposed to be on the Scooby-Doobies on that team. Maybe we'll have Genie on that team. Maybe as far as Yogi Yahooies, maybe we'll have Rough and Ready, the first real Hanna-Barbera show, on that team. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a new team comprised of Hanna-Barbera shows and characters that could have joined in as well originally. But it's all up to Warner Brothers It's all up to them, for they own the license. Can it happen? Perhaps. Perhaps it could, perhaps it won't. But you know what? I'm hoping it does, because it'll be interesting to see something like this happen, especially if it's going to help celebrate Scooby-Doo's 50th anniversary, because Laugh-A-Lympics originally was called Scooby's All-Star Laugh-A-Lympics, so it is a part of the Scooby history. So would it be nice to see some kind of reincarnation, resurrection of this series, of this part of Scooby's history? Yes. Will it happen? We don't know. But that's all I'm going to say on this installment of the Scooby-Doo 50th anniversary discussion and blog. Let me know what you guys think down below. I do apologize for some of the wind. Hopefully you guys could hear me throughout. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care.